I'd like to introduce Ash Agabi to take us away for the next session of the day. Come on up.
What if you all went to sleep tonight and you woke up tomorrow morning in this virtual world? You will be able to see all 7.2 million colors that your eyes could perceive. In fact, you will be able to hear sounds, all 20,000 tones that your cochlea can translate. You will hear in high definition. If you were wearing gloves, you will be able to feel the blades of grass. What would immediately give it away is that you will smell nothing and you will taste nothing. The reason why that is the case is because as a civilization, we have succeeded in digitizing sound. We've built an industry out of it. Touch is a force. The computers in your pocket, you interact with it by touch every day. Sight, the photons that come into your retina, you can translate that. But taste and smell, they're chemicals that bob around in space. Additionally, touch is actually a one-dimensional problem. It's either it's there or it's not. Sure, there are gradations to it. Sound is a two-dimensional problem. It's a compression and rarefaction of air that beats on your eardrums. As complex as vision is, it relies on just 3 wavelengths to combine in different quantities to create these 7.2 million colors that you can perceive. But smell and taste, for a human, is at least 400 dimensions. This is the work of my PhD thesis that I did at the ETH in Zurich and at the Imperial College in London. I dropped out of my PhD to pursue this. But the elegance of biology is that over 600 million years, it has perfected this machine to detect smell. Which begs the question, how is biology able to solve this problem? Let's get a little bit into the science. You see, a dog's nose has evolved to serve 2 functions. One, to keep the dog alive. The second function is it pulls air from the atmosphere. This air goes to the back of the olfactory epithelium, where you have these gentle undulations, and it creates these microvortices where the air is held for a little bit longer. The particles of smell, they bind to a protein. These proteins, they are called GPCRs, or olfactory receptors. When the proteins bind to these olfactory sensory neurons in your nose, they generate an electrical signal. It's this electrical signal that goes to the brain of the dog, and it can tell, this is my owner, this is a piece of bacon, or even this is an explosive at an airport. The dog's nose is so amazing that if you were to put a rose petal on one corner of a football field and the dog on the other, it would be able to tell. The dog can even do time travel with its nose. If a dog comes to the room when the owner has left, the dog can tell that the owner was there. That is the magic of what is possible with this biology. So at Koniku, we go into a little bit of the details. The cell itself, how is that possible? When that particle binds to that receptor, that's the first stage of signal perception. The interaction between the molecule and the protein. The job of the olfactory sensory neuron in this case is it's amplifying the signal that is coming to the protein, and then there is a response at the end of it that is sent to the brain of that dog. So what we do at Koniku here is we genetically engineer these cells and we put them on a chip. So the image I have in the back at the back here is this. On the right-hand side, you see the cells that will brighten up. They brighten up on the exposure of triacetone triperoxide. So within seconds, we're able to get response from these cells that are genetically modified to respond to this explosive compound. The next thing we do is we take these cells, we put it on one of these chips, which you will get to see later. The same technology that the dog uses, we harness it into these chips. On the back end of it, we have built an optical system that is able to collect the fluorescence signal from the cells. And the electronics has an IoT capability that is able to send this signal anywhere you wish. The cool thing is, nature is our open source library. We start from proteins that already exist in nature. The mouse, the human, the elephant, the dog, the fruit fly, and even the mosquito. We take olfactory receptors from all of these different animals, we pack them, and we put them inside these cells. Not only do we use the cells, the receptors from these cells, we use machine learning to further make these cells, the receptors, respond even better. So in this case, you see the improvement from the receptors that are responding up to 100 times better than what exists in nature. Our goal at Koniku is to map all the volatile or the organic compounds that touch human life. We want to be able to catalog all the smells that impact human life in any way. I want to tell you a little bit about the few use cases we have been able to accomplish so far. In the airport use case, where we deploy our technology for security, our goal is that you can travel from the curbside to the aircraft without any obvious security in between. Thank you. In this way, when you go to the airport, we have a more open environment where people can travel from one place to the other without being profiled, any of that stuff. You get data, you get security, and you get openness out of this. Additionally, we have deployed this technology to detect drugs. The cool thing about using our technology to detect drugs is a lot of the drugs that are out there that are causing damage to our society, they act on proteins in the first place. So all we have to do to develop sensors to detect things like fentanyl, amphetamine, and others, we take the same receptors that these drugs target and we deploy them on our chip. Like I said earlier, I dropped out of my PhD. If I knew building this company would be this hard, I would have stuck with a PhD. But what genuinely keeps me going, what humbles me, as an immigrant from Nigeria, educated in Europe and now a newly minted American, is the possibility that we can diagnose disease in real time using volatile organic compounds. Each one of you in this room, from your breath, you are emitting up to 3,000 different volatile organic compounds from your breath. They are in very, very, very low quantities. In fact, we have known this since 460 BC. There's a woman in the United Kingdom that can detect Parkinson's by smelling it. In fact, the Canadian government has spent millions of dollars to catalog more than 100,000 different volatile organic compounds that touch human health. Our goal is to be able to detect them. Picture this. The year is 2028. Somebody is driving to work. They get a call from their doctor, and they say, go to the next healthcare center and have your body checked out because you might be coming down with a disease. How can we live in such a world? Let me ask you this question. Aside from the case of trauma or childbirth, why do we go to the hospital? You go to the hospital so that your body can be connected to a lot of instruments, collect physiological data, and the doctor comes along. The doctor looks at this data and makes an informed decision based on that data. But every morning when you go into the bathroom, you give off a lot of data in terms of your bodily fluids and even your breath. What if we could build an instrument that is not looking for disease, but constantly monitoring your state of health? What if we could build an instrument that is able to capture this more than 100,000 different compounds that the Canadian government have so kindly helped us map? How would that change healthcare? And it's not just for saying it. That's something we've already begun to do at Koniku. Did you know that when you get influenza A, for instance, the species of VOCs that are coming from your breath is changed? What if we can measure that? And also measure stress levels. When we say an animal can detect fear, the animal is not doing magic. It's detecting stress levels that are occasioned by the production of BPEA. We have demonstrated that we can detect the same thing in urine, for instance. Our goal is to start small. Let's start from the wellness applications, things like detox, stress, gut health, diabetes, you name it, before we go to the more difficult tasks of FDA approval, where FDA approval is required. Over the last 12 months, my company has tried to scale the production of these devices. We failed. But I am happy to say that now we are partnering with bigger companies that will help us manufacture these devices in large scale. We are targeting to begin to make about 5,000 devices by the end of next year, and up to 2 million consumables of our devices. Because of the technology that we've built, the form factor, our devices weigh only 500 grams. We have decided to bring it to Mars. The smell processor, the demo is going to come out now, where we have packed the smell processor, we have put it on a quadruped. So what you hear is the advent of cyborgs. So this quadruped that you see here has one of these chips inside it that has living biological cells in it. You have seen these quadrupeds before, but we now imbibe this quadruped, imbibe it with the ability to smell using our chips. So what you're watching here is these 3 boxes. One of them has the smell of green peas in it. It's a very healthy dog. It likes green peas. So what Josh and David are going to help us with is that this dog is going to walk and check in each one of these boxes and figure out which one has the green peas in it. This is raw data that you're seeing live from the app on the phone there. Do you want to begin? So the graph you're looking at on the left-hand side, the y-axis is the response amplitude, and the x-axis is the time. So the little pipe you see here, that's the nostril of the quadruped, if you will. And you can see the baseline goes back down. It's the first time we're trying it live. There you have the detection. So what has just happened, thank you very much. Thank you so much, guys. So what has just happened is the cells inside that chip that have been genetically modified to give off fluorescent signals, the electronics at the back end is reading those fluorescent signals and is able to send it to an iPhone. Like I said earlier, our goal is to map all the volatile organic compounds that are touching human life. But what really drove me to start working on this? The year is 2000. I have just left my bachelor studies at the University of Lagos, and I was working for a robotics company in Zurich that came out of the Zurich AI lab. We were working on cobots, so little pick-and-place robots. And I was so fascinated by what these cobots are able to do, but I was even more fascinated by what the human hand can do with so little resources. I was fascinated by biology. And I asked myself, what if we could build with biology? That really sparked me going into deep details of neuroscience. And here is how I'm thinking of this. We have built a chip that has living biological neurons in it. This virtual world that I told you earlier, what if we could build an autonomous system that has biological brains in it, able to integrate information from the real world and make autonomous decisions based on it? In fact, if you do the math, to get a chip that is able to do the function of gray matter of a cubic centimeter, you would have to build a chip the size of up to 2 basketball courts. A tantalizing possibility for us is building a chip that is made of biological brains. To do that, we believe 2 things need to be answered. 1, can you teach these biological cells to communicate together and form permanent connections? There's a concept in neuroscience where we say neurons that fire together, they wire together. It's the basis of learning. One of the things we have tested at Koniku is being able to stimulate 2 neural cores that are connected together stimulate them, and force them to learn from each other. As you're seeing in this image, we are able to stimulate one well that has neurons in it and force a decrease in activity of the other well or increase the activity of the previous well. In addition, we also demonstrate we can create unique architectures out of this. So we can create multi-core little brain reaggregates on chip, not just in 1 dimension, but in 3 dimensions. As you can see in this image, we have 9 separate cores where we are able to make the neural connections or the neural architecture between all these cores. We're able to make strong connections between them. In addition, we are also able to create 3 neural cores, for instance, where we're able to create complex junctions between these 3 neural cores. I don't know if this is going to happen in my lifetime, but our goal is to create a new kind of architecture, a new kind of wetware, if you will, that is building the brain from the ground up. Not the brain, but a brain from the ground up. So, just to summarize what I've told you today, we are building a new kind of wetware that is able to map all the volatile organic compounds that touch human life using biological cells. We are already using this technology to detect VOCs in the enterprise use case. A big possibility is using this to diagnose disease in real time or monitor health. Over time, we believe this can be a new kind of architecture. We have a demo on the lawn. We have a lot of sense in there. Please come join us on the lawn later and pleasure your sense of smell. Thank you very much.